And as always, we have Joyful Way Incorporated here in our studios, and they will be giving us the best rendition of songs and their own compositions from over the years for this very day, Christmas period. And now let's do some discussions and just intersperse the whole day with a lot more topical issues for us to take a look at. And I have Bright Demoji. He's a member of Parliament for Botiano English Amonfro. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're marking the day with us, so we're very happy.
Yes.
And we're also very grateful that you found time to always be with us for the whole of the year. And we'd say that we're also here to support you as much as we can.
Thank you very much. I wish you Merry Christmas.
And many happy returns to you and your family and your constituents as well.
So grateful.
All right. We'll have to start our discussions with the former chief executive of the VRA, Dr. Charles Wereko-Bobby, who says that he will soon turn to the court to compel the National Petroleum Authority to reduce prices of petroleum products. And we know that currently the per barrel price of crude oil on the international markets is under $60. And for many of the critics, it's been that the NPA has not been following its own words of automatically adjusting prices of petroleum products. Of course, we've had some responses to all that. What's your own view about the action that the former VRA boss intends taking?
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to cherished viewers, and especially those from my constituents, you know, those around Botiano, Kokrobiti, Oshie, Langba, English Amanfro, Tomefa, and its environs. I just want to take a moment to wish them Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year. Yes, today is a very solemn day, and these are very hard issues. But you know, management of economy is not just when we say manage. That's why we say management. That you look at the broader picture and then just look at them just micro. This is more of a macro nature, because macroeconomics is important. Yes. In the past, we all know the issue of third debt, we all know the issue of under-recovery, and we all know what the government is saying. The explanation the MPA is giving, the explanation from the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, and all the argument. But so if you put all the argument together, as somebody who is buying fuel on a daily basis, I would say that, yes, it is difficult to take those arguments as a person. Because yes, if the argument is that there is something called automatic adjustment, that when the price increases,
you also increase.
It must increase, and as it increases, we've been increasing. As to whether there's a proportionate increase, that's another point. Whether when it increases by 40%, they increase it by 40%. It's another question we should be asking, because we are only looking at the reverse. Does it mean that ever since we started the automatic adjustment formula, when we are supposed to increase by 40%, it goes up by 40%? Then somebody should be looking at those statistics and say that, yes, ever since we started the automatic adjustment formula, we are using the formula judiciously, or we are going according to the formula judiciously, so that when it comes to the argument that, yes, we should go down judiciously, we should also make the same argument. But nobody is looking at the other side. That's why I believe that, yes, let's monitor the formula against the price increment. Sometimes it's possible that maybe government doesn't want people of this country to feel the hinge too much. If they're supposed to increase it by 30%, they do it by 10 or 15%. So who pays the difference of the 15%? It means that it goes to under-recovery. It is possible. I am not an expert in the petroleum management. I am not working in the Ministry of Energy. But the bottom line is that how does the under-recovery comes? That's the question I keep on asking myself. It means that there is some level of subsidy, or there's some level of considerations in the past which we need to manage now. Yes, that's why these days everybody is talking about ADR. Litigation is very nice, wonderful. You go and put up your case in court, argue, and get the result. But the bottom line is that is that going to solve our economic challenge? Because the law is made for man. That's the bottom line. So if, yes, we can be able, within this period of time, you know what it will cost to this country if we are able to deny the banks the liquidity. If you borrow all the resources from the banks, the financial institutions, as a government, to pay the under recovery, and now that you are supposed to pay them, and you are not having money to pay them, you know how it will crowd out the private sector, because the private sector will not be able to get a lot of resources. In terms of, if you go to me and you, we want to do some small business, we put up a small business proposals and we go to the bank to take money, because the government has borrowed a lot from the banking sector and they are not paying back. It will be difficult for them to release those resources for us to develop the private sector, which we say is an engine of growth. So we'll be carrying out the private sector, and that will be difficult for private sector to grow. So if there's a way out for government to be able to recoup those resources and quickly pay the private sector, because these BDCs are purely private sector-led companies, and I had this. Basically, my uncles and my are in the oil sector, and I know the difficulties we're facing, and with regard to the how much government is owing them. You understand me? And along the line, in this country, you can know that we were having a lot of problems with regard to the shortage of fuel. And we were talking to one of their the chief executives of this, the BDAs, I think they are from some associations, and they were saying that three or 2 months time, we will complete paying our under recovery, and then we will start enjoying. Possibly, if the price still remain like that, then we see we must live by hope. You must live by hope. If there's no hope, you cannot live. So government must give some level of assurance to Ghanaians that yes, this under recovery thing we are talking about, if things exist the way they are, within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months time, we'll finish paying the recovery and we'll be able to adjust the price for Ghanaians to enjoy as the price of the world market is coming down. That's the assurance I want the government to give the people of Ghana, that yes, looking at the calculation, looking at what we've been able to recover so far, it will take us 6 weeks, it will take us 8 weeks to be able to recover the under recovery. Then everybody will be at peace. But if you're not telling us anything, how long it's going to take you, that's where the difficulty is.
But let's try and segment the discussion from the angles of the consumer and also from the BDCs and also from government. The reality too has been the government had been subsidizing and so had incurred certain debts. It could be under recovery debts and also subsidy debts. Okay. At what point do we have to say as a people we need to also realize that fact? And government also needs to empathize at the same time with the people and say, well, I was increasing, but I was also subsidizing at the same time.
Yes, that's how the information aspect, as I mentioned earlier on,
needs to be.
Yes, that we need to see some figures reflecting that, yes, in the month of maybe the first quarter of 2014, we were supposed to increase the fuel by 20%. And we increase it by 10% or 15%. It means that there is an under recovery of 5%. How much it add up to? Then when people, experts or civil society organizations get this information, then government will not even talk too much. They themselves will take the issue up and discuss. Because, look, when the city was having difficulties, when there's a difficulty with regard to the stability of the city, we're all having difficulties with regard to. So, but now, as it's stable now, everybody is at peace with it. So we all need this country to develop. We won't need our currency to be strong. So if there's something that government is doing that we think is positive, we all need to support it. But the bottom line is that the information flow is also key for me. That's the bottom line. Because, I mean, honestly, a government that wants to continue managing this country will not like the people to cry. At least they want the people to have some relief. So if it is just going to be easy for government to reduce the price, I think they will do it. They will do it. But I think there's some difficulty, there's some challenges facing them. The government, the managers of the finance of the economy, that's how come they are insisting that, okay, fine, let's take advantage or let's take the opportunity to recover some of the costs before we'll start adjusting it. So for me, they need to tell us the time frame that they will be able to do, take care of this under recovery so that we can move forward as a country. Legal argument, fine, you may be right by going to court. You may even get the judgment. You may even get a judgment in your favor. But what are you doing to this country? That is key. So patriotism is also key. So let's look at the issues. Let's look at the issues and see whether patriotically it is good to go to court and how will that impact on the economy as a whole. That's the bottom line. But you see, as a private person, it's not easy to take that the world price that they've been using to adjust the prices is now coming down, and all over the world the difference is even huge, and nothing is happening to the private man's pocket. It's a big of a problem. Yeah.
Now, if the consumer would have to perhaps undergo this current regime of pricing, we're being told by the BDC, that is the chief executive of the Association of the Bulk Oil Distribution Companies,
yes,
that it will take about a year for the way the pricing has been pegged for the current offset of whatever is it debt that is currently in place. We're told in excess of some 1.5 billion.
Yes,
that's huge.
Very.
That's frightening for the ordinary consumer. I mean, if they have to go through this current regime of pricing for the next 10 months or 12 months.
Yes, the question that it's good to get it from the private BDCs, but I was thinking that it should come from the official source of government. That will give some level of assurance to the people of this country that yes, from the government perspective or from government information sources, it's taking us 1 year or taking us 6 months, whatever. But whatever it is a good news for this country. Maybe individually, we may not be feeling it, but I believe strongly that it is a good news for this country, because you see, when there's instability in the macro environment, it is serious than we having stability, because what it means is that the price of petroleum is not going to change it's not going to increase anyway. So you can even budget in terms of your fuel expenditure. So for me, if you look at it from a consumer perspective, I would have wished that at least, yes, we are talking about under recovery. If you ask me my personal advice, what I have said is that yes, the difference is big. So why can't we also enjoy small? At least if the government will say that, okay, fine, the variation in terms of the reduction should be around maybe 20%. If it's going to be 20%, then let's give Ghanaians some respite by giving them 5% or 10% reduction. Then we'll use the 10% to do the under recovery. That will be another way of looking at it. But the bottom line is that whether it is 5% or 10% recovery, the bottom line is that there's an attempt to recover the cost. So I think what Ghanaians are looking for is to get some respite with regard to the petroleum price, because internationally the price is reducing. So I think the government will be looking at it. If there's any need for a review or change of position, I think they should do that.
Okay, so the next point of action and subject of discussion will be how then do we cope with the relatively current rate of pricing, when we know that if we tend to reduce, it will also tend to influence whatever prices from, is it the market chain? For example, we know when there are increments, there are also increments in transport fares, but also even prices of goods and services also tend to go up. And so we're also supposed to see some improvement in that sector. That is, if we try to reduce and for the benefit of the consumer.
Normally, from the experience, we don't see much reduction in prices when prices of petroleum products reduces. You don't see that normally. Maybe directly, but indirectly, it will reduce some cost of production for industry and for businesses. But direct impact on prices, in most cases, is very insignificant. That's what I've
Why do you think the market tends to react that way? When there's a reduction, there's no commensurate reduction in prices of goods and services?
Yes, you know, it's for me, I would say it's an attitudinal problems, in a sense that...
But we're quick to increase.
Yes.
When there's an increment.
Yes.
But reductions never.
Yes. It's a rational behavior of businesses, and that, yes, we must maximize profit. Profit maximization is also key to businesses. So, in most cases, you see businesses that are more or less state-owned enterprises trying to behave in that manner. That's how come you see when the petroleum price or what do you call the currency was picking up, you see GASM coming up to reduce their prices, and that led to the other companies to also do same. You see Waxem and other companies do it, following suit. That's how come it is important that as a social democratic government, state involvement in some institutions, some key institutions, is also very, very important. Assuming that most of the sectors, which I always argue and critically have a problem with, I always say it, every platform I find myself, is that I don't know which country in this world have privatized their telecom companies. I always have a difficulty with privatization of Ghana Telecom. That if you cannot even manage telecom sector, telecom business as a country, then we are in trouble. Because that's an area where, I mean, every small country have a national telecom company. And management of a telecom company, as far as the mobile business is concerned, it's not a difficult thing. It's not anything difficult. You understand me? So, if assuming that state-owned enterprises are on their feet, performing very well, then we can see significant drops in prices when prices of those items drop out. But because everything is now private sector led, what they will tell you is that when prices were increasing, or when they were increasing the petroleum prices, they were not able to increase their prices to commensurate with the increase in the items. So now that it's coming down, they are also trying to recover the basically, that would be the argument. We may not see any significant drops in prices.
Okay, we have on the line Senor Hosi, and Mr. Hosi is the chief executive for the BDCs, the Association of BDCs. It's a very good morning to you, sir. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Hosi.
Good morning.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, good morning, Mr. Hosi.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, my name is Roland, and thanks for speaking to us on the AM show. Now, particularly when concerns still are being raised, that we significantly need to have a certain position undertaken by the NPA of reducing petroleum prices based on whatever prices currently we're witnessing on the international market. How feasible is that for you from the observation of you, the BDCs?
I think I've been on record saying that I'm sorry to listen to as my voice is quite croaky.
Okay.
At close of trade yesterday, prices fell much lower, a little in excess of 10%, and the prices on the average between the 12th of December and yesterday would be what would define the pricing come 1st January. And we've seen a significant drop again pricing. We already have over recoveries that we are recouping from the market to pay our part of government exposure to us. The SPT is also accruing, and special petroleum tax is accruing about 135 million a month. With what we have now, we also accruing about 100 million a month to pay now 1.5 billion debt. I think that with this further decrease, it will be reasonable for government to consider probably splitting that further decrease or that windfall with consumers and us as well. But Roland, it's important that we also start changing the talk and the speak. Petroleum prices will not necessarily go down every time. If we make a little move to decrease, and there are further increases, and then there are challenges to pay BDCs, we may have prices much higher. And we also have those who will be more vulnerable in society, who will have the general public probably suffer more with prices increasing. We should change the speak and start key interventions that government can make and should make towards alleviating these challenges and also creating a more productive economy. Mass transportation is one thing we've talked about all this while. What are we really doing towards it? If you're going to be sending windfalls every time, 100 million cedi windfalls, you drop it, then it gets to a time where subsidies will have to come in, 1.5 billion cedis, and with no thought of how to even fund it. I think it's not a productive way for us to manage the sector. We should be considering how we change the speak. And it's a media woman direct that. In the face of government trying to make savings to pay BDCs, what are the productive things the government will want to do to help alleviate the challenges that the people would face? What are we doing about mass transportation? What are we, the many drug stations we have around the country? How are we renovating them, getting them into a modern state? How are we bringing in more mass transportation? How are we doing with our bus transport system, which Honorable Jafar has well prosecuted somewhat, and we have to give kudos to the president as well on that. But how are we moving on those things? Those are the things that help alleviate the challenges associated with price increases. If you, Roland, can get into a bus, air-conditioned, comfortable, and in about 30 minutes from wherever you are, say at Delta, or in 40 minutes exactly, you will be at multi-TV. And you are sure that by time A or time T, you will be there and have a bus in place maybe 5 or 10 minutes late. Why will you always want to spark your car? And then bring more pressure on the city, because most of our products are imported. Even if it was refined, it will still be imported crude. Why don't we also start changing that speak? It's something we should start talking about. While we want prices to go down, let's look at ways that the government or the state can help contribute in us having less dependence on petrol and a more productive transport system.
Well, Senor, it's good speech you make there, but as far as we're concerned, once these are policy issues and the policy issues need to be coming from government, i.e. the political elite who head the political parties and their various perspective. As a country, do you think that all these debates that we're stirring currently, and you, the BDCs, also seem to be also spearheading this very debate, needs to be at the forefront currently when we're confronted with the current issue of what prices consumers need to pay or not?
You see, for us as BDCs, ultimately, we need to get paid so we can keep offering our services to the economy. That's our mandate. We have to do it. If we cannot get paid, then we have a problem.
What's the alternative?
the alternative is for consumers to necessarily have everything. If you want us, have all the windfall, and government has to look for money elsewhere, which you and I will honestly not see. One thing for fact you should realize is that in the budget, only 50 million cedis was actually provisioned for or earmarked for subsidies. And you have a 1.5 billion problem. You want to solve it with 50 million cedis. It's a non-starter. The industry will crash in 3 months if that's what you want to do. So we need to have a mechanism for dealing with that debt. And as funding confidence goes down, and we come back to the situation that we were in June, a situation I hope not to revisit. It's not peaceful for you, it's not peaceful for us. You also have businesses which are actually really bad on the debt and accruing interest that will collapse them. Meanwhile, petrol and the trading of petrol has actually been a key tool for economic growth in major economies. All right? You look at the Rockefellers, they rag on that to become major investors across. They were able to trigger so much trade. If you look at Vanderbilt, who actually did a lot of his thing on Rockefellers, crude. You look at Nigeria, the kind of entrepreneurial chambers you have there. People make money out of oil, investments here. You even have examples here in Ghana. You know, there are quite a number of names because people like to keep private names, but people are able to reinvest. But if you're going to be killing a strategic economy like this, a sector of the economy like this, which is largely led by indigenous entrepreneurs, that's the problem.
Sanyo, if we look at the current portfolio of debt as we have it, 1.5 billion, that's in dollars, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
No, in cities.
In cities. Going by the current rate of the pricing mix, how long is it going to take us as a country to offset this very debt?
If government is paying down the debt only through over-recoveries, and we are assuming that today's over-recoveries, of about 100 million cedis will be seen throughout the next period of X, or for the next 24 months, blah blah. It's going to take you not less than 15 months to pay. But if the special tax was to join that, it's going to take us much lesser time. Okay, maybe with that you may be looking at six to 7 months, depending on how prices would run. But we just have to hope that prices don't start going up before then. Otherwise, you're still going to have challenges with payment. I think you saw, if you read the BFT not too long ago, one of the bank MDs. And banks are largely conservative, and they like to keep quiet about their exposure. But they had to intervene on the issue of pricing, because this BDC problem is having a negative impact on the liquidity of our banks. And that's very dangerous, Roland. That can crash this economy overnight.
Okay.
If that exposure is going to be swallowed and at a point it's not sustainable, banks will have to write it off. Can you imagine a number of banks that can go down? That would be a new Lehman Brothers in the making in Ghana.
I have here with me Bright Demoji. He's a member of parliament as well. He will make a contribution, and please stay on the line, because we're very much happy you're joining us on this very day, Christmas Day, to contribute to the debate. As we all go out and, well, buy tickets and go for shows, etc., we still have to think about the lingering issue of the fuel debt, or the petroleum debt, as well as the pricing mix as well. And what's your own contribution to what Mr. Hosea has said so far?
I think it's right on point. All that I've said, that the key issue is that we should look at the bigger picture, which is the macroeconomic environment. The macroeconomic environment, talking about how the financing sector or the banking sector is performing, the impact of the under recovery in the past we have on the banking sector, and the over recovery, how it's going to help the banking sector to be able to come up with regard to the resources that we have. Because, my brother, if somebody is owing you, or is owing you, the money is not in you. If you can go through all the process, that's what the time frame that you'll be able to get the money is another matter. So if you hear that your debtor is doing very well, is doing very well and is going to pay you your money very soon, then that should be a very good news for you.
Mr. Hosi, what currently is on the books, 1.5 billion, is it tied to...
It's in the excess of that. You know, there are some other debts we're not adding to this profile, which would have made it 1.7 billion.
1.7?
It would have been 1.7, but you can talk about it at 1.5. So
okay.
I mean, I like to keep it that way.
Okay, in excess of 1.7. Is it tied?
In excess of 1.5. Let's keep it at 1.5.
Okay.
The other one, we are finding a different mechanism to have it paid. So let's leave the debate, the public debate on.
Is it tied to the depreciation of our currency currently?
It's also been a function of that. The currency has contributed to the under recovery, but it's more of policy and so public pressure. When the MPA sets in, it knows that the pricing airline it sets a full cost recovery for importers. So importers must have their cost fully recovered, and the cost to the importer is in dollars. So the price and the cost that is set, you know, prior to every import and all that, is also defined in dollars for us as BDC. We will sell in CDs. We should be able to get the right dollars and then pay according to what structure that is set. But when it comes in dollars, it must be converted to CD. So you pay CDs at the pump. So the MPA manages that process. So MPA may decide with government that, look, the exchange rate on the market is 3.0. I'm taking a historical BOG rate, which may be 2.5. Let's use 2.5. So for $100, instead of me selling it at 300 CDs, I end up selling it at 2.5. And I sell at 2.5, I go back to the market to buy my dollar. I would have what? A 50 CD loss. That's not my fault. I might just get my $100 back and send. It's not, but because you know it, and you deliberately apply a risk that you know at time T will not reflect the real situation. Or you may be using $3, 3 CDs today, but we have a 90-day trade cycle. So in 90 days, when I go back, it may be 3.5. So I get 50 CD loss. That, again, is not my fault because you should have used an FX forward rate. But you want to have the prices low. So that kind of loss is what we often call the FX loss. But it's actually an FX under recovery. Under regular accounting standards, an FX loss should have been something that a business would have to take. But because you have the guaranteed pricing and you don't have control over pricing, whoever is defining that must ensure you still get your dollar. So it's an under recovery. Then you also have the price under recovery. When you use an FX rate which is inadequate and you get paid at 250 CDs that you get instead of selling it at 300 CDs, government may still say the pressure on the people is too much. Or to use it up in arms, let's make it much easy. Let's just get some calmness in the economy. So instead of 250 CDs, you sell it at 200 CDs. So another 50 CDs have come in. A government now has to find the money to pay for the first 50 CDs and also this second 50 CDs and 100 CDs. And that's big. It has accrued, and today we stand at a point of over 1.5 billion.
Okay, now we're talking about over recoveries of 100 million currently, averagely. Just the last week, the Saudi oil minister, as his contribution, being members of OPEC, was asked by the Financial Times of London whether they're likely to increase production to make sure that those OPEC countries also tend to gain a lot more out of the current crisis that they're facing. And he says that they have no hand in it. And just the last 2 days, he's been speaking to Bloomberg as well. If you get a scenario like that and the producer countries decide to up production, it means that they would want to glut the markets and, of course, increase their prices as well. How?
No,
what? Okay.
That's the reverse.
Okay.
When you glut the market, you have prices rather dropping further.
Dropping?
Yes, unless OPEC is looking at cutting production. And OPEC's influence is also reducing because of the shale oil. So that may also not be as effective as they should, and they also have economies to run. All right. It may be the case that we are gradually getting to an era of having expensive fuel being almost history. Okay, it may be, and I hope we really get into that situation.
Well,
but Ronald, that's a double-edged sword for our economy as a people. We are also an oil-producing country.
Okay.
We have government expecting so much revenue from oil. If you look at the budget, I think Honorable should be able to confirm that. The minister had set the revenue from oil at $99 per metric ton. So if you're going to do 99 and you are going to have a situation today which is as low as it is, government is also going to have revenue issues on the fiscal side.
Yeah.
All right, and that brings the question. So the special petroleum tax, is it going to be used to pay BDT? I ask myself, I don't easily want to live in Wonderland. I love to live in a very real and practical world. That would have been fantastic, because with that, in some 7 months thereabouts, we would have finished paying off BDT exposure, provided new ones don't come and join. But government is also having revenue less. So it means his target expense is now going to be strained. It has budget deficit challenges it doesn't want to compound. And I'm thinking this tax is rather going to fit into that hole. Yes, you know. So this thing about prices going down, and we all as Ghanaians, you know, saying we should have a.
Now,
also know that we're also losing.
Senor, you are independent observers, and as financial a person you are, just because of what you do and your expertise. When do you think, from your neutral point, we have to move the politics or remove the politics out of all this talk about the
politics should have left 1968. Ghanaians should realize politicians have a limited influence on petrol. What I think politicians should spend time doing is reviewing their taxes if they think it's that high. Governments can suspend taxes on fuel. They are sold a whole list of taxes and levies you have in there. I think beyond the SPT, you have about another 40 million cedis that's supposed to accrue to a number of them, toll, and a number of things. If government admit and politicians realize, or they are honest about the fact that they have very little influence on petrol and prices, the public would adapt to it. So government's interventions are only limited and unknown. One, you cut out liabilities to the state, and it helps government focus on more productive parts of the economy with investment, other than paying for consumption, which even has very limited contribution to labor within our own economy. It won't help us.
Okay.
We look at the history, when those days when Dr. Kwesi, my very good friend, and somebody I admire so much, used to read the price of petrol in the budget. If Honorable would tell you, it was the most important part for any single person listening to the budget. Everything else Kwesi said was neither here nor there for the average Ghanaian. At the end of the day, what was the price? Those times are gone. It led to us having toll downs. We crashed toll ourselves because of politics and petrol pricing and political management of toll. You see, petrol and business and politics, for part of our world, it doesn't fly. We have to step back and be honest with the people. Petrol we don't control. I can control the taxes. But I equally have to do the road in front of the house. I equally have to get a school there. Government should spend more time in interventions that are more productive to the economy. And I keep talking about mass transportation. Right. If you're able to move more people from one point to the other in a more effective way, that's in your
so that should be our thinking
to the economy.
Okay, thank you very much, Senor Hosi, and somebody who has a lot more interest in finance, strategy, ethics, and also risk management. I know that you know what, as it is, what you're talking about and what needs to be done by the leadership as far as we're concerned. Have a Merry Christmas, Senor.
Very happy return.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. And I was the CEO of the Chamber of the Bulk Oil Distribution Companies. We say a very good morning to you, and your last word before we go.
Yes, I think is right on point, as I said, that going forward, government should look at the windfall and see whether you can share it with the
But
public.
he also said that as a people we need to be realistic. The point is, once the prices are reducing and we're using less to buy, well, our revenues also from oil are also reducing.
That one, there's nothing. We don't control the pricing.
So we can't eat our cake and have it as well.
But even from where, if you look at our budget today, from where we peg the pricing of petroleum against where we are now, there's a huge loss already. Because if you look at the 2015 budget, we're talking about 99, and we are almost around less than $60. It tells you that we are down already. You see? So yes, it's a chicken and egg situation for us as a country because we are now producing oil. But that's not the issue. The issue is that, as he said, government should be forthright in communicating to the public with regard to how long it's going to take us. Yes, that's all I think we should be doing.
Thank you very much, Bright Demoji. And Mr. Demoji is a member of Parliament for Botiano, English Amanfro. And thanks for joining me, sir. I wish you a pleasant Christmas day.
Wish you the
and
same.
A good festive season as well. All right. So we're taking a break. When we come back, of course, we're linking up with Joyful Way Incorporated. We're talking a lot more issues that you need to observe during this very Yuletide.